Hello everyone, David Mead here. Thanks again for coming to the workshop session last week. During that, there was one bit of information that we were not really able to cover because we didn't have enough time. And so I mentioned that I would create a short video explaining the hierarchy of conversations. So you got a blue card that says, which conversation are we in, on the front. And basically, on the back are different conversations that we usually have. So the example that I started with was, we've all been in a meeting where we are talking about the same topic, and yet it seems like we just are missing each other. The reason for that is usually because we are actually having different conversations. And so the hierarchy of conversations allows us to identify which conversations we're in and unpack them a little bit so that we can have more efficient and more effective meetings and conversations. So I'll just go over these quickly and give you, again, just a dip in the water of each of these. So the first conversation in the hierarchy, the one at the bottom, is the hierarchy, or the conversation of relationship. And this is something that we do naturally all the time. It's the chit-chat that we do with each other. It's the water cooler conversations. It's the little things that help us to get to know each other a little bit better. We do these naturally, and it's an important thing, even though it might seem silly. It's important for us to get to know each other a little bit better, and often that's done through just simple things like, how was your weekend? Did you watch the game? You were sick last week. Are you feeling better? All of these things. So that's the conversation of relationship. The next one on the list is the conversation of possibility. And this one you might recognize perhaps by a slightly different name, similar to brainstorming. A conversation of possibility has a rule, and that rule is the rule of yes and. And what that means is that you can either say, yes, I hear your idea and I want to build on that idea, or yes, and here's another idea that I want to offer. Basically, the conversation of possibility is for getting out any idea, as harebrained or silly or far-fetched as it might seem. It's about getting all of the possibilities out there, all the ideas around a particular topic or a goal or a project or an idea that you want to explore. There is no room for, no, we can't do that, we don't have enough time, we don't have the money, this is what's standing in the way. None of those things belong in a conversation of possibility. Often we get a little uncomfortable with a conversation of possibility because it invites ideas and thoughts that might not work, and so we're afraid to even say them. But this is a chance for you to not hold back. We're not committed to anything that we say in a conversation of possibility. We're simply getting every idea out there that we can. And a stupid, harebrained, crazy idea, while it might not work, it might just spark somebody else to say, ooh, you know what, based on that idea, what if we did this? And I have seen incredible, incredible things come out of a conversation of possibility. The temptation with a conversation of possibility is to cut it short, to have it for 2 or 3 minutes and say, okay, we've got all the ideas on the table, now let's get into action. The most powerful thing you can do is keep yourself in that conversation of possibility longer than it might feel comfortable or normal to do. Because the longer you can stay in there, the more ideas flow, and obviously if you're putting out possibilities that would be in line with your why, you're going to be inspired by those things, you're going to feed onto other ideas and other possibilities, and it's an exciting, fun conversation to have. So that's the conversation of possibility. Next one on the list is the conversation of opportunity. And the conversation of opportunity takes the possibilities that you've come up with, and the idea is that you would choose 1 or 2 of the possibilities that excite or energize or inspire you most and move those into a conversation of opportunity. And the conversation of opportunity is a time to place the real-time constraints, the roadblocks, the things that you assume are standing in your way. This is the time to put those realities to this possibility. So what's standing in our way that this might not work? What are the constraints? What are some of the assumptions that we're making? What are some of the things that are missing that we don't have that are keeping us from taking this possibility forward? That's the conversation of opportunity. So we apply the real-time constraints, and very importantly, we challenge the assumptions that we're making. So one of the constraints that we come up with is that we don't have the time, we don't have the budget, we don't have enough people. Take the time to challenge those assumptions. Is that really true, or is there a way to find the money? Again, this might go back into a conversation of possibility. How might we find the money? How might we free up some time for people to work on this? So challenge the assumptions that you're making, because if we're really inspired and really fired up to do something, we'll generally be able to find a way around the obstacles that are standing in the way. The next one is the conversation of action. So once you've identified a possibility that you're excited about, you've had a conversation of opportunity around some of the things that may be standing in your way, and you've challenged the assumptions that tell you you're not going to get there. Then you're still fired up about it, you've worked out how to get around those obstacles and those challenges, and you move to a conversation of action. And a conversation of action really is comprised of two things: commitments and requests. So this is a time where you commit to doing something to take this idea forward, and you request, if you need help from people, if you need input from people, this is when you make the requests that you will need to be able to follow through on the commitments that you make. So this is when we assign responsibilities and accountabilities and dates and timelines and these kind of things that get us into action on this thing that we're trying to take forward. The final conversation in the hierarchy is the conversation of acknowledgement. And this is something that we do naturally usually as well. This is telling people, acknowledging people for the input that they've made or the work that they've done. But we take the conversation of acknowledgement to a little deeper level. Rather than just saying to somebody, thanks, you did a great job, it actually follows the pattern of a why statement that I shared with you in the workshop. So it has a contribution piece and an impact piece. So when you acknowledge somebody for the work that they've done, rather than just saying, thanks, you did a great job, acknowledge them for the contribution that they've made to you, to the team, to the project, whatever it is, and the impact that that had on you or the team or the project. It makes it a lot more meaningful. Rather than saying, hey, thanks for your comments in the meeting today, say, thanks for really bringing some insight to the meeting. It really helped us to get to the point where we were, and now we can move this thing forward because of the input that you made. So in that conversation of acknowledgement, acknowledge the impact, or the contribution, first the contribution that they've made, and the impact that that contribution had on you or the team or the project. So in very basic terms, that's the hierarchy of conversation. There's a lot of power in being able to point to a conversation and say, hey, everybody, we are now in a conversation of possibility. That means we have to follow the rule of yes and. There's no, we can't do that, we're not moving into action, we're not in any other conversation, we are simply in a conversation of possibility, and simply knowing that and being able to identify which conversation we're in allows everybody to stay focused on that particular conversation before we move on to the next one. Now, it's called a hierarchy of conversations because conversation of possibility has to come before a conversation of opportunity, has to come before a conversation of action. That doesn't mean that every conversation that you have has to have all of these conversations in it. It certainly doesn't. You might call a meeting simply to have a conversation of possibility around an idea. And then you might call the meeting and that's it. And the next time you get together, you've already had the conversation of possibility, so then you can jump right into the conversation of opportunity and continue that way. So I hope this is helpful, and I hope that you'll be able to use these different conversations, acknowledge which conversation you're in, keep people in that conversation to have more effective and efficient meetings and conversations around the important work that you do.